Saddam liked to be observed taking an active role in the business of running a campaign. His lack of combat experience didn't prevent him urging on in person those who, far away, had to do the actual fighting. From the moment his blitzkrieg foundered in the sands of Khuzestan, Saddam aimed to involve the superpowers in a bid to ensure an Iraqi victory. America was drawn in directly by Iraq's attack on the US frigate Stark, hit by an exocet which the Iraqis say they fired accidentally. 28 US servicemen died. The Americans decided not to punish Iraq, but to concentrate on putting pressure on Iran, whose Kabbalah offensives were threatening Iraq's second city, Basra, commanding Iraq's southern oil fields. Iraq's oil exports came to depend largely on tankers belonging, ironically, to Kuwait. The Stark incident, plus increasing Iranian threats to this traffic, brought in the major powers to protect the passage of oil tankers in the Gulf. Kuwaiti tankers were reflagged as American, with the United States reserving the right to return fire if the oil ships were attacked. Noisy Iraqi celebrations marked the end of the 8-year war. Stalemate was passed off as glorious victory. For the superpowers, anything had been preferable to an Iranian victory. Saddam's Qadisiyah, a reminder of an earlier triumph over Persians, was celebrated by grandiose monuments like the Arch of Swords in Baghdad, with its cascade of helmets from the battlefields of the war. On the banks of the disputed Shatt al-Arab waterway, statues of 99 of Saddam's fallen commanders point accusingly at Iran. The point glossed over that it was Iraq which opened hostilities. Another memorial paid homage to the glorious dead, the martyrs of the war. He paraded on a white horse, symbolizing victory, whatever the reality, and reinforcing Saddam's increasing belief that he can claim natural leadership of all Arabs. That determination took him to Mecca, the holiest city of Islam in Saudi Arabia. Saddam was to claim the Saudi rulers weren't fit guardians of the sacred places. Beside the mystical claims, Saddam was determined Iraq should have the latest military technology and defend its military secrets. Farzad Bazov was an Iranian-born journalist working for a British newspaper. Sent to Iraq to investigate reports that many had died in an explosion at a weapons plant, he was arrested for allegedly spying on sensitive installations. Iraqi television showed him supposedly confessing to being an Israeli spy.
I gathered information during my trips to the battlefront from the military officers, Iraqi military officers and Iraqi citizens, which I took pictures as well, which I handed over to the Israeli intelligence. I wrote reports and I handed over to the Israeli intelligence.
Soon afterwards, Bazov was hanged. The world was appalled, but Saddam ignored all appeals for clemency. The world was to be shocked again when the Iraqis were caught trying to smuggle triggers for nuclear bombs. Saddam tried to ridicule Western fears by showing he already had such equipment, but the difference between them was clear. That scandal was followed by the row over Iraq's apparent attempt to build a super gun. Long pipes, which the Iraqis said were for repairing oil links, were reckoned to be parts for a huge gun. One prototype super gun had a range of 112 miles. Saddam denied everything again. Again, he wasn't believed. It was the destruction to Iraq's oil industry during the Gulf War that led directly to the Kuwaiti crisis. It ebbed and flowed round the southern oil fields near Basra. 10 million shells landed here. Essential storage facilities and pipelines now lay in ruins. Saddam went and saw for himself the scale of reconstruction needed, convincing him of the challenge facing Iraq's rickety economy. Iraq does have other exports, dates for instance, but war blighted that business too. 30 million trees were destroyed. With most food imported and paid for by exports, an economic crisis deeper than anything the Iraqis had experienced before would be unavoidable unless measures were taken to cut overseas debts which had risen enormously during the Gulf War. Saddam reasoned that he needed two things: control of more oil areas and a higher price for the oil itself, something that would need agreement among the members of the OPEC oil cartel, which includes Iraq. Possession of Kuwait, whose oil facilities were virtually untouched by the war, might bring both and satisfy old territorial claims. Iraqi troops took up positions in border areas as Baghdad told Kuwait to cut production to force up prices. Kuwait's vital role in shipping Iraqi oil during the war with Iran was forgotten. Iraq issued denials that it would invade, then Iraqi troops poured into Kuwait. Saddam's gamble that a divided world would take no action. President Bush, he stated his reasons bluntly.
There is no justification whatsoever for this outrageous and brutal act of aggression. A puppet regime imposed from the outside is unacceptable. The acquisition of territory by force is unacceptable.
The Independence was one of several American aircraft carriers to begin policing the Gulf and offer protection to the state next thought to be at risk, Saudi Arabia. US warplanes, including the latest F-16s, were made ready for action to discourage any further Iraqi assault. America's military muscle was on parade in a quantity not seen since the Vietnam War. President Bush made clear that no matter how much had to be spent, how long it would take, Iraq would have to submit. On land were thousands of US Marines and paratroops sent to Saudi Arabia to prepare for battle if diplomacy and blockade failed. Facing that ferocious armada, the forces of President Saddam. And in the religious and political ferment of the Middle East, the president of Iraq has proved himself adept at outwitting his opponents. Millions of Iraqis would agree with the official media's description of the beloved leader as they support Saddam Hussein defying the